What is going on, Bucs fans and CFP fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am not alone today. I am joined by my co-host on the Cannonfire Podcast, Mr. Rhett Matthew, and we are here to dissect the most impressive and disappointing players from the Buccaneers' massive and wild 51-27 victory over the New Orleans Saints. A game that was a roller coaster. I mean, ups and downs, twists and turns, and the Buccaneers were able to come out on top, bounce back, go to 4-2 after a tough divisional loss last week. Important to get this one. Rhett, what were your just quick initial thoughts on this wild game before we get into the specific players?
Gotta love a victory Monday, and This is a game that really had it all. There were highs, there were lows, there were interceptions, there were touchdowns, there were running backs, which we will talk about as well, but it always feels good to get a division win. It feels that much better to get it over the Saints. So, the third straight year of winning on the road in New Orleans as well for Tampa Bay. You love to see it.
Bucs own the Superdome, I guess. Is that what you're telling me? But without further ado, let's get right into it. We are going to start off with the impressive, and we're going to start off with quarterback Baker Mayfield. Now, I know the stat sheet is going to say there are 3 interceptions there. And look, one of them is solely on him, right? One of them was a bad decision, a poor decision that he'd like to have back. The other 2, kind of a little fluky, a little bit, right? Baker finishes 24-36, 325 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Also contributed on the ground a little bit, 3 carries for 29 yards. So a pretty good day, though, by Baker Mayfield. And I think even if you kept the 1 interception, that was his fault, you take out the 2 fluky ones, that is a fantastic day. So overall, while it wasn't the greatest Baker Mayfield game in the world, still pretty darn good. So I don't mind Baker Mayfield's day today, and I actually thought he was pretty good. So what did you think of number 6's day out on the field?
I thought it was an afternoon full of grit and resilience for number 6, man. I think this was a good showing for Baker because it didn't look like it was going to be easy to brush off those back-to-back interceptions and a couple of fluky interceptions on top of that. Stuff that only happens when they play New Orleans, right? But, there was a point in the second quarter where Baker was looking uncomfortable in the pocket, wasn't finding his receivers down the field, and the Bucs, despite moving the football well, weren't doing a lot. And then they come out in that second half, they adjust the game plan, and although they went away from throwing the football, whenever he was asked to throw the football in that second half, he did a really good job and made the most of those completions, I think. And again, a lot of instances of smart football, trying to learn from the mistakes that he made up until this point last year. I think Baker, again, like you said, the box score won't show the best statistical day, but the Buccaneers offense has been one of the most potent in the NFL up until this point, and a lot of that has to do with how well Baker has played and how well he's taken care of the football.
Absolutely. And we are going to move on. We are going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. Going to cheat a little bit because we are going to put 2 players in this one. And it's the Buccaneers running backs. It's the Bucs duo, the Buck and Tuck duo, as it has been coined by our lovely chat in the post-game show that we did yesterday. You guys can check that out now if you haven't yet. Go over to Cannonfire Podcast YouTube channel and check out our post-game show. But Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving. Sean Tucker was actually the leading rusher for the Buccaneers in this game. 14 carries for 136 yards and a touchdown. Bucky Irving, 14 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown. Combined, they had 28 carries for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's 7.75 yards per carry. Pretty good, right? I think it's pretty good. But the Bucs rushing attack was the best we've seen it in a long time, and these 2 guys definitely earned being on this list after their performance on Sunday.
It's hard to not want more of the Buck and Tuck show after a season premiere like that. And with all due respect to Rachaad White, I do think there are going to be some conversations this week among fans, among media outlets, whoever it may be, about looking at what Sean Tucker can bring to the table in this Buccaneers offense. We've talked a lot about the good work that Rachaad White can do in this offense, but he does it in the pass game, right? He's a great pass catching back, but we have not seen production like this from any running back duo in Tampa Bay in many, many years. Now, is this going to happen every single week if you make Bucky Irving running back 1 and Sean Tucker running back 2? Probably not. But I think again, if you can hone in on what Sean Tucker brings to the offense, allow Liam Cohen to draw up some more schemes out of this 2 running back set. They were a dominant 1-2 punch for the Buccaneers on Sunday afternoon, and I think Sean Tucker played well enough to earn, hopefully, a bigger role moving forward. I think it'll be interesting to see how things shake out, but I've seen enough. Make Bucky Irving running back 1.
They also were productive in the receiving game. Sean Tucker, 3 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown, and a 36-yard touchdown, and Bucky Irving had 2 catches for 24 yards. So both were productive not only on the ground, but through the air. Speaking of through the air, our last offensive player on the impressive list is going to be a guy who has been on this list before and will probably be on this list again. That is wide receiver Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin had 11 receptions. The next closest receiver had 3. So it was the Chris Godwin show in New Orleans. 125 receiving yards for Chris Godwin on Sunday. 105 yards after the catch. He was a monster for the Bucs and has 2 touchdowns on the day, including a 55-yarder. Great day from number 14 in a season that is shaping up to be one to remember for the guy who's in the contract years. There's a lot on the line for CG14 here.
Yeah, the Bucs wanted 2019 Chris Godwin, and they got him with a refined role out of the slot wide receiver position in this Liam Cohen offense. He had a great afternoon. I mean, he's having a great 2024 campaign. I think the way that we are talking about Chris Godwin and his production now is going to lead into him potentially being one of the higher paid wide receivers in the NFL after next season. You know, at this point, he is taking charge in a lot of these games. Like, these defenses just do not have an answer for number 14. And even when they do, sometimes he has the physicality to take a 10-yard reception, 40 plus more yards for a touchdown. I mean, the guy is an all-around athlete. He is healthier than ever, and he is playing a great brand of football. I think the Bucs may have a hard time trying to pay him to stay in Tampa Bay at the end of the year, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. CG having one hell of a 2024.
Now, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. And this is when we talked about the box score, right? We talked about how the box score may not look as impressive for Baker Mayfield. The box score may not look as impressive for this defense, 27 points allowed. But you have to look a little deeper, right? And realize that the defense actually had a pretty good day when you look at it. When you think about this, the Saints had a special teams touchdown, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then the Bucs had multiple drives almost in a row with turnovers, setting the defense up in a tough spot. The defense pitched a shutout in the second half, pitched a shutout in 3 out of the 4 quarters. The Saints scored all their points in one singular quarter. The defense today, though, powered by their defensive line. Okay, the Saints were not able to run the football, and that is massive when you got a rookie quarterback who's they're going to want to make things easier. Alvin Kamara just simply was not able to get going on the ground, and he's been able to do that. Now, he did score a touchdown, but 13 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown for Alvin Kamara. And then Jamal Williams had 2 carries for 7 yards. The Bucs were able to really shut down the Saints rushing attack, but then also later on in the game got some pressure on Spencer Rattler, and I think it made all the difference there. Buccaneers with multiple sacks in this game from multiple different players. So shout out to the Buccaneers defensive line in this one, which got some good news with Calijah Kancey returning to the fold.
I mean, Calijah Kancey has been catching a lot of flack so far this season. I know availability is the best ability when it comes to these young players, but listen, man, Calijah Kancey, when he's on the field, makes an impact. And I don't think it was a coincidence that today, having him back in the lineup next to Vita Vea led to the production that they were able to get.
And now we're going to talk about Zion McCollum, who, look, this season has been, I mean, the Bucs' best corner, right? Arguably one of the better players in the Buccaneers secondary. And he had another good day on Sunday. Had the big interception, great grab, and also had a pass breakup against Rashid Shaheed earlier in the game. McCollum continues to be a pretty big bright spot for this Buccaneers defense. He had another good day on Sunday in New Orleans. What were your thoughts on his game against, a matchup where, yeah, Chris Olave goes out, but Rashid Shaheed has shown the ability to take the top off the defense, and McCollum handled it pretty well.
Yeah, Shaheed's been a huge piece for New Orleans so far this season. They've had an explosive offense at times, but Zion McCollum has played consistently enough at a level to let me believe and know for a fact at this point that he has reached another level as a starter in the NFL. I think the Buccaneers went out on a limb a little bit, and we talked about this. When they move on from Carlton Davis and they put a lot of trust into Zion McCollum and Jamel Dean as your cornerback one, they're expecting another leap from Zion McCollum. They like the development they saw in 2023, and they put a lot of pressure on his shoulders here in 2024, but he's delivered and then some, because you talked about him, consistently looking like the best defensive back in the room for Tampa Bay. That is a defensive back room that is full of talent. So the fact that this guy is, again, continuing to play well enough to get noticed week after week, he has reached a new level. And I'm very excited about what he can do for the Buccaneers defense. Big takeaways right when they needed it against New Orleans. So, Zion McCollum, he seems like he's getting better every week, really.
Speaking of getting better every week, we're going to continue on with the Buccaneers secondary and our final player, the most impressive. And look, this isn't all the most impressive guys. We could go on. We could make this a freaking 35-minute video talking about the most impressive. You want more of a breakdown, go watch the review show. That being said, though, Tyke Smith, right, the rookie safety slot corner, had a really nice day. Had basically 2 turnovers, had a forced fumble, and also had his first career interception later on, basically the game was over, but to put a cap on it, basically. And great day by Tyke Smith. He continues to regress more and more each week, and it's looking like a pretty good draft pick right now for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, really big day for the Buccaneers draft class. I mean, Bucky Irving having the showing that he did in the run game, and then Tyke Smith showing exactly why Todd Bowles picked him from the University of Georgia. Just that ball hawk ability. And another defensive back in a room full of defensive backs that have the ball hawk ability. Antoine Winfield Jr. returns to the lineup, and boom, 58-yard scoop and score for Tampa Bay on their first defensive possession. So Tyke Smith, a little bit of a coming out party, but he shows that he can be another guy on this defense that can create takeaways and really change the momentum of a game. He showed up big time today. Just another rookie to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this type of game, there's not going to be many, right, disappointing. However, not everything's perfect, though, right? So let's just discuss really quickly some guys or some units that we think, could have had some better days. First off, Jalen McMillan. We talked about the rookies, right? The rookie class having a good day. McMillan was not one of them, right? He can't obviously put interception on a wide receiver, but the ball pretty much hit his chest and it bounced off his chest and into the arms of a Saints defender for Baker Mayfield's second interception. That's on McCollum. He has to catch that football. In the punt return game, he was really ineffective, and McMillan has not really been able to find his groove yet in this offense. And I'm not, again, it's not to say he's a bust or anything. It takes time, but I think him basically becoming the wide receiver 4 now, because Sterling Shepard has been like this team's wide receiver 3 essentially. So McMillan definitely is a guy who needs to have some better days, but I still think the future is pretty bright for him. But Sunday was a day to forget, I think.
Yeah, he's a rookie, so definitely,
Yeah.
as you said, not going to write him off at this point in the season. I think Liam Cohen still has time to find a role for this guy, but the hype was alive and well after week 1. Had a big time touchdown against Washington, and then he is, as you said, struggled to find a role. I think, the Bucs have put a couple of other guys in that position now. Trey Palmer, although he did have, the concussion, left the game, he was able to catch a touchdown from the wide receiver 3 spot. I made the point on the post-game show that Sterling Shepard arguably has done more from the wide receiver 3 spot these last couple of weeks than Jalen McMillan has done all year, and that's even with a touchdown reception. So, again, I think that it's too soon for people to pile onto this kid and say, oh, it's a wasted pick. The Bucs should have gone with someone else. I think time will tell how things shake out for Jalen McMillan, but yeah, I got to be better than he was. I think he's got to be a little bit more of an asset for Tampa Bay, especially in the return game. I think against New Orleans, he was visibly not very good. The interception, what are you going to do, man? It's right in the breadbasket. You got to bring it in. Kind of a freak play. It is what it is. You got to move on, but I still think there's time with Jalen McMillan. I still don't mind the pick here from Jason Light.
Yeah, and speaking of needing to be better, the Bucs special teams, specifically the punt coverage unit. We're not talking about Chase McLaughlin or Jake Martin had an up and down day.
Got hit.
Sort of the best punt he had was negated by a penalty, so it does kind of suck. But the Bucs at one point in the game did allow a pretty easy punt return for a touchdown by Rashid Shaheed, and I don't even think there was a Bucs defender. There might have been one that maybe got a hand on him, but not really much. I don't even know, even if we were playing two-hand touch, I don't know if he would have been down, because it was only, I think, one hand. Bucs special teams unit definitely got to clean that up. So they are one of the more disappointing. And whenever you have a special team touchdown, I think it's sort of deserves to be on the disappointing list. A lot more positives out of this game, right? A lot more positives out of this football game for the Buccaneers. A massive win for the Bucs. So with that being said, let us know who you think was most impressive, most disappointing, who stood out to you, what stood out to you. Was it a particular unit? Was it particular players? Let us know in the comment section below. Like I said, if you guys want to check out our recap show, the full show is available on YouTube, everywhere you can listen to a podcast. Stay tuned for Cannon Fire Podcast on YouTube for a lot more updates throughout the week. But with that being said, thank you all for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go Bucs.